This case is on the court's docket for an adversary on a petition filed by the department. The department is present through Ms. Gongora. Sam Kinslow was conditionally appointed and is present for the mother, Tristan Bayer. Sam Martinez is present. He was conditionally appointed for the alleged father, Jesse Davis. They are both here. Robin Houston is attorney and guardian ad litem for the child. We're set for an adversary. You may call your first witness.
Yes, Judge, the department calls Megan Harding. Ms. Harding, can you please say your name for the record?
Megan Harding.
And how are you involved in this case?
I'm the caseworker for the case.
Can you explain to the court how this child came to the department's care?
We had an intake that came in from that stated that the mom was using methamphetamines while she was pregnant and delivered.
And is it accurate, Ms. Harding, that the mother and the child both tested positive for amphetamines and marijuana at the time of birth?
Yes,
Did you have a conversation with the mother at the hospital?
I did.
And what was that conversation about?
That the mother had acknowledged that she had been using methamphetamines while she was pregnant, knowing that she was pregnant, and that she at the time did not and still did not want anything to do with the child.
And you stated that she was saying that she still did not want anything to do with the child. Was there a conversation about how she had been previously trying to terminate that pregnancy?
Correct. She had tried multiple times to terminate the pregnancy in the early stages.
Did mom talk to you at all about what her living situation was?
She was homeless. She was on the streets.
Did she indicate to you that she was unable to care for the child and simply did not want to take on that responsibility?
That is correct.
Now, the father in this case is Mr. Jesse Davis, correct?
Correct.
Or I should say the alleged father in this case is Mr. Jesse Davis, correct?
Correct.
Where was he at the time of removal?
He was incarcerated.
And would that have been at the McLennan County Jail?
That is correct.
What was he in there for?
Family violence.
And so at the time that the department was seeking to remove the child, he was obviously...
Would you like to offer the affidavit as a stipulation?
Judge, the parties hadn't made that stipulation on the record yet. So if they would like to do so, then I will.
Mr. Kinslow?
Your Honor, I did talk to my client earlier, but it's been over a week, but she did indicate stipulation at that time. She has not called me to recant, so I'm willing to stipulate.
Mr. Martinez?
We'll stipulate, Your Honor.
Thank you. It's admitted as a stipulation.
Thank you, Judge. Harding, where is this child currently placed?
He is placed with the alleged father's mother.
And that would be the paternal grandmother?
That is correct.
And that is Miss Danae Smith, is that correct?
Correct.
And she is located in Dallas, or she resides in Dallas.
Yes, ma'am.
What type of visitation is the department requesting as far as the mother?
The 1 hour.
1 hour per week supervised by the department?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about the father?
The same.
Now, in your conversations with the mother, she had indicated that she was currently using and had been using illegal substances. So I'm assuming that the department is requesting the color code drug testing system for her. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Does the department have any concerns of drug use with the father?
No, ma'am.
Is the department requesting that he be on random?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else that you feel the court needs to be made aware of at this time regarding this child?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Martinez?
Ms. Harding, if Ms. Smith is willing to supervise the visits between the child and Mr. Jesse Davis, would CPS have any problems with that?
No, sir.
And so if those visits are approved, could he be seeing the child on a regular basis every day if needed, if he's supervised by her?
Correct.
I passed witness.
Mr. Kinslow?
And I apologize if I wasn't listening well enough. I was trying to text my client. What is the visitation proposal for Ms. Bayer?
1 hour a week supervised.
If the caregiver was willing to supervise her, would she also be entitled to that as well?
I do not see why not.
Nothing further.
Ms. Houston?
Ms. Harding, I have met with the caregiver and I think she's completely capable of supervising visitation, but would the department still like to see both parents one time a month so they can observe the visitations?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, you're too far away from your microphone, Ms. Houston.
Okay, I mean, is that better? I'm just speaking louder.
Yeah.
Would the department still like to see the parents one time a month for an hour to observe visits at the beginning of the case?
Yes, ma'am.
And does the baby have any health concerns due to the drug?
No.
I'll pass a witness.
Anything further of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Davis, just a point of clarification. The pleadings indicate that you are the alleged father. That means that no court has made a finding that you're the father. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it also correct that you are not at the birth of the child where you signed acknowledging under penalty of perjury that you're the father of the child?
Yes, ma'am.
Your lawyer indicated at the docket call that y'all had a chance to visit about your right to have genetic testing if there's any question in your mind, or you have the right to tell me, I'm the dad, I don't want DNA testing, just make a finding that I'm the dad and let's roll on. What would you like to do?
I'm the dad, ma'am.
Okay, and you understand that if based on what you're telling me, I make that finding that you are the legal father of this child, there'll be a court order based on judicial admission. You are the father and you can't change your mind next week, next year, or in 10 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's what you want to do?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I will make a finding that Jesse Davis is the father of this child. I will establish the parent-child relationship between Mr. Davis and this child for all purposes. And Ms. Harding, Ms. Houston, y'all believe that Ms. Smith is willing and y'all believe she's capable of supervising not only Mr. Davis, but also Ms. Bayer?
Your Honor, I have not had a conversation with her about supervising Ms. Bayer. I don't think she has any objection to supervising Mr. Davis.
All right. All right. The court finds that there is a
Judge,
yes.
I was just gonna say
I
one
had-
thing. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
had a question for Mr. Davis.
Okay.
Mr. Davis, can I just verify what your full name and date of birth is, please?
Jesse Lucas, ma'am.
That was all I had, Judge.
Anyone else have a question for Mr. Davis?
Just one other question. Jesse, the assault family violence that you got convicted of that you were sitting in jail with, that did not have to do with Tristan Baer, correct?
No, sir.
That was somebody totally different. You don't have any issues with Tristan Baer as far as assault family violence.
No, sir.
That's what I'm sorry.
The court finds that there is a continuing danger to the physical health or safety of the child at this time if returned to the parents, and continuation in the home of the parents would be contrary to the child's welfare. The court finds that reasonable efforts consistent with the circumstances were made prior to the removal, but this child at this time cannot be returned. I will appoint the department the temporary managing conservator. I am going to order that the father can visit at times and places as agreed between him and his mother, supervised by his mother, not earlier than 8 a.m., not later than 8 p.m., and there will be one visit per month supervised by the department. He will drug test if requested, but you will not have to call that phone number every morning to see if it's your date to test. The mother will have 1 hour per week supervised by the department. I'm giving discretion to the department and Ms. Houston to move those visits to supervised by Ms. Smith once Ms. Houston is able to confirm that she believes that that would be in the best interest of the child. And if it goes to caregiver supervising, then she will have one visit per month supervised by the department. She will drug test pursuant to the color. Sir, it sounds like the department is not overly concerned with you and a drug issue, but I'll still expect that you test if you're asked, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you start refusing to test, then your visits get suspended.
Yes, ma'am.
I am signing a scheduling order, setting up the upcoming hearings in this matter. They will be virtual, absent a request to have them in person. The law requires that I admonish all parents, if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your child, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. And again, I am making the finding, sir, that you are the father of this child. Mr. Crosby, can you announce the upcoming court dates?
The status hearing will be July 11th, 2023. The initial permanency hearing will be November 7th, 2023. The second permanency and final will be March 5th, 2024. and the dismissal date is May 13th, 2024.
Is there anything further from anyone?
Your Honor, I don't have my affidavit back yet. I've had some miscommunications with my client. I will try to get it promptly. If I don't have it by status, I expect to be releasing me.
Thank you. If you'll just make a note, in theory, the law would say that I release folks at the adversary, but under the circumstances, I'll let you continue until the status hearing. The department's present through Ms. Gongora. Robin Houston is the attorney and guardian ad litem for the child. John McLeod is present with the mother, Mindy Warren. Timothy Beeson is not present. He's incarcerated. Mr. Kinslow was previously appointed, and Mr. Beeson requested genetic testing. Before we get started on the hearing, what's the status on DNA that was ordered at the adversary?
Your Honor, from my information, and if Ms. Gomez has an update, she can certainly give one, but the father was scheduled to be tested and swabbed on May 31st.
Is that correct, Ms. Gomez?
That is correct, and we haven't gotten it back. It should be back this week or next.
Has the child been swabbed?
Yes.
The department calls Yolanda Gomez. Ms. Gomez, we're here today on a status hearing. Did you have any issues with the mother participating in the PC or the FGC that was held?
There was no FGC held. I can't remember if she participated in the PC, but I have given her the family plan of service and she has signed it.
Okay, and she did not indicate any issues or concerns?
No.
And would that be the same for the father?
Correct.
And he has reviewed and signed his family plan?
He has reviewed it. I didn't take a physical copy, so he hasn't signed it, but he said he would sign it, and I'll get that as soon as possible.
Are there any issues with Landon's current placement that need to be addressed today?
No, there are no issues with his current placement.
Now, Ms. Houston had indicated before this hearing started that he might have some medical procedures going on. What are those?
So he has dental surgery on the 8th, so this Thursday. He has 4 rotten teeth that need to be pulled and 8 really bad cavities that are going to be capped. And I also did want to mention that he was having some withdrawal problems due to the drugs, but he has been doing a lot better now.
Is there anything else that the department feels the court needs to be made aware of at this time?
I did want to mention that mom had been late to several visits. I believe she has only had 1 visit that she had been to due to being late to the others.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. McLeod?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gomez, I had one issue with the plan, and I think I raised it at the PC because I've been doing this with the department, and that was with the requirement that Ms. Warren will obtain and maintain stable employment and that she'll send CPS pay stubs. And I'd asked the department, and I'm asking the department in each case, instead of making that requirement for work, that the parent be required to be able to show the department that they can support the child in a legal manner. If that involves the job, that they then provide pay stubs. Because of course, some parents cannot work. Some parents may have other sources of income or support. And so would the department have an objection to modifying that portion of Ms. Warren's plan to reflect that she just showed that she can legally provide support for the child, and if that is through employment, that she provide pay stubs?
There was no objection. That was changed. I forgot about that, but that was changed for both parents.
Okay, thank you. No other questions.
Any further questions of this witness?
I have no questions today, Your Honor.
Your next witness, Ms. Gongora?
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. McLeod?
No witnesses, Judge.
Ms. Houston?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Warren, you're aware of the family service plan that the department has created for you. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I do believe Mr. McLeod emailed me the newest one.
All right. And if I make the change that your attorney is requesting that I make regarding employment, is there anything else on your family service plan that you believe is so unfair that I would not make it an order of the court?
I'm not sure. I haven't read over the whole thing just yet. I was trying to print it off yesterday to read it and I hadn't quite gotten it, but I got through some of it. But I read the first one And so, I don't think there was anything I needed to question. It was just the main thing about the housing or the pay stubs and stuff. And then like y'all clarified, y'all fixed that.
All right. One more question. The report indicates that the mother has denied any Indian status. Has the father been asked?
I'm not sure.
I believe he was asked by the investigator and he denied as well.
Okay, that needs to be in the report that's accurate so that we can make sure we're not violating the Indian Child Welfare Act. All right. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the current place and prior orders for visitation for the child and the parents. I will make the family service plans for the parents in order of the court, but I will modify the mother's family, I guess both. It sounds like Ms. Gomez has made that change on both, correct? Well, then if it's already probably happened, I probably don't need to modify, but just to clarify, both the mother and the father's family service plans do not require employment if they can demonstrate another way to legally support the child. Ma'am, your progress on your family service plan will be reviewed by the court at every future hearing. The
Yes,
law
ma'am.
requires that I admonish all parents, if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your child, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. Ms. Gongora, if by chance you get, or Ms. Gomez, the results of that genetic testing before I do, if you'll just please make sure that I'm aware of it. Usually once the AG's office gets the report, they will prepare a proposed order and send the report and the order to the court. But as soon as we know if he is dad or not dad, I'd like to make sure if he is dad that Mr. Kinslow gets back on.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're certain he is the father. It's just with the way his situation was at the time of giving birth to COVID, he wasn't present at the hospital. And so that's the only reason we're doing this.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. McLeod?
Yes, Judge, I'm sorry, just for clarification with Ms. Gomez, has Ms. Warren been given all the referrals? Have they been made and the information been given to her so she can start calling and setting up the services?
Yes, for all of them except therapy. I was seeing which one had the shortest waiting list, but I'll get that to her this week.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Judge.
And then do we have the CCJ report on file?
We do have the CCJ report, Judge, and we do not have any other courts of continuing jurisdiction.
All right. Sorry. The next hearing will be an initial permanency on the court's docket for a permanency before final. The final hearing is currently set for July 25th. The department is present through Ms. Gongora. Costa is the guardian ad litem for the children. Costa is present both through Ms. Witt and also Ms. Bellis. Robin Houston is the attorney for the children. Sam Kinslow is present with the father, Ryan Wills, and Mr. McClinton is present with the mother, Nancy Wills. And the department has indicated that the parents have done so well that they would like to get out of the case at this time. That is the department's request, Ms. Gongora.
It is, Judge. The department feels that both of these parents have mitigated all of the concerns for the department. They've been doing really well on the monitored return, and there are no current safety concerns that would warrant the department's continued involvement.
Mr. Wills, if you'll take your cap off for me, please, sir. Thank you. Mr. Kinslow?
Certainly, I represent Mr. Wills, and he is supportive of the non-suit.
Thank you. Mr. McClinton?
We obviously are in favor of a non-suit.
Ms. Houston?
Your Honor, I'm in favor of a non-suit, and I believe that CASA is also in favor of a non-suit.
Ms. Bellis, Ms. Witt, which one of y'all would like to speak up?
I can. Cost is also in favor of a non-suit, agreeing with what everyone said, and the girls do both seem to be thriving at home with Nancy and Ryan.
All right. Mr. and Ms. Wills, tell me what this process has been like for you guys.
We've learned a lot. I'm thankful for it. You know, everything happens for a reason. So I'm just glad because it helped me better myself as a person and a father. So I'm thankful for it, you know, but I'm glad it's over.
All right. And y'all are never going to come back here again, right?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And so one thing that the lawyers let me know is that there's been a recent tragedy in your family.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And I understand that that can be a big stress. Do y'all feel like y'all have all the tools that you need to deal with this in as positive and healthy way as possible?
Yes, ma'am. We have a big
Absolutely.
support system.
huge
Okay,
family. So
you'll promise me that you're going to reach out to your support system if you need to, so y'all don't wind back up here again.
yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay.
I can promise you.
Okay. Well, I am sorry for your loss. I want to make sure that y'all have things in place to stay strong for this baby. Or
Yes, ma'am.
these babies.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is there
Thank
any?
you for your
Condolences.
thoughts.
Condolences.
Condolences.
Well, all right. On a positive note, the court finds that the parents can provide a safe and stable home for these children. The children have been returned since February, early February. They are doing well. All the folks on this screen agree that it would be in the best interest of the children for the department to get out and for y'all to get to go forward as a family without the department's involvement. So just please, please, please don't come back again.
Yes, ma'am.
I am granting the non-suit that the department has requested, dismissing this case. There'll be no further hearings. Congratulations.
Thank y'all.
Thank you all so much.
This case is on the court's docket for a second permanency and final. The department is present through Ms. Gongora. Ms. Houston is standing in for Kevin Keithley. He is the attorney and guardian ad litem for the children. Mr. McClinton is present for the mother, Alyssa Womack. Mr. Dennis is present for the father, Jalen Holloway. Also let the record reflect that the relative caregivers, Jared and Don Womack, are also present. This case is set for a second permanency and final. Would y'all like to take up second permanency or final today?
We're requesting a second permanency, Your Honor.
All right. You may call your first witness.
The department calls Amy Wiley. Now, Miss Wiley, one note of correction in your report. It says that JR's family or JR's goal for him specifically is adoption, but it should be relative conservatorship for all of the children. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's because all of these children are still in their relative placement and doing well. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And are the current caregivers who I believe are here today, are they working on getting licensed through PCA?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, Miss Wiley, the report states that both the mother and the father are currently incarcerated, with the father still being in TDCJ and the mother currently in McLennan County Jail. Has anything changed in that regard?
That's correct. Nothing's changed.
Okay. And so because of that, have there been really any changes since the filing of your court report as it relates to these parents and their progress on their family plans of service?
No, ma'am.
Is there anything specifically that you feel like the court needs to be made aware of that's not already listed in your court report?
Just that I have been told that mom has signed a plea deal. It's not, last I heard, it had not gone before the judge yet. But she's still incarcerated this time.
So mom's incarcerated. She's working on trying to get that criminal case resolved. But until that happens, she's going to remain in McLennan County Jail and doing services that she can while she's in there, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is she attempting to work any services at the jail, or has she been unable to do so?
So there's nothing available at the jail, but she's doing services with Dr. Schender.
It's all right, Miss Wiley.
Sorry about that. He's sick today.
Is there anything else, Miss Wiley, that you feel the court needs to be made aware of?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. McClinton.
Yes, your report says that she's been seeing Dr. Schender weekly. Is that still continuing?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and also says that he was going to refer to MHMR to try to get some medication worked out, or what's the status of that?
The referrals, I was told the referrals at MHMR, but until she, it goes through and she starts, there's no information that MHMR would be able to give me on that. Okay. But if she doesn't, if she's not able to start with MHMR before she gets out, Dr. Schender is going to write her a note to take to her PCP.
Okay, but it is possible that she could get started on MHMR before she's possibly enters her plea deal and is possible. I don't know what her plea deal is, but she could possibly be out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what MHMR's timeline is. I know it's different, for everybody. I know it could take a couple months to get in. So it just depends on their availability.
Okay, pass the witness.
Mr. Dennis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Wiley, you sent me a communication recently that Mr. Holloway is concerned about his parentage, his paternity of the children. Is that right?
Yes, he's demonstrated that the entire case.
Can you tell me exactly what his concerns are?
He's questioning if he is the biological father of any of the children, but especially the youngest child.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Why is that coming up 9 months into the case?
I don't know, Judge. It's not something he's talked with me about. I just wanted to make sure that I had addressed it with Ms. Wiley since I got that email. I need to look and see whether he's presumed or what.
The pleadings indicate he's the presumed father.
And I don't recall him asking for DNA originally.
All right. Any questions, Ms. Houston?
No, Your Honor.
Any further witnesses, Ms. Gongora?
No, Your Honor, not at this time.
Mr. McClinton?
No witnesses.
Mr. Dennis?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Ms. Houston?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
So for the two older children, it's too late, 6 and 4. He appeared in this court on 2/14 of 2023. There was no request made. I'm guessing when he requested an attorney, he would have checked the box that said he's the father of these children.
And Judge, we have the birth verifications in our file, and it shows that his name is on all 3 of the children's birth verifications. And so that is also another aspect of that.
And I will say, Judge, when I met with him October, he didn't bring that up to me.
All right. Mr. and Ms. Womack, the evidence was that you guys are doing the things you need to do to become licensed. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And can you tell me, do you believe you're getting pretty close to being licensed, or do you have a timeline on when you might complete the tasks?
No, ma'am. Unfortunately, Lone Star is no longer. So we've had to switch over from them to Foster, Texas. So we're still having transferring issues with some of our trainings.
Okay.
So we're not sure at this time.
Okay. Well, and I only ask that because just for a time standpoint and a scheduling standpoint on the court's part. Sorry for that switch over. I understand that can delay things. Is there any, do you parties believe that mediation would be beneficial? Can the parties participate in a mediation from their incarceration? Do y'all think y'all could do anything informally?
Judge, I think that's up to the parents' attorneys at this time. I'm sure that in certain circumstances, depending on what unit the father is in, it might be easier to work things out informally, but I'll certainly leave that up to the attorneys.
Mr. Dennis, Mr. McClinton, would y'all like me to order mediation?
I think I can have a conversation with Mr. Holloway and try to work that out without a mediation. But if you're inclined to do it or Mr. McClinton wants it, then that's fine with me.
I think we may give it a shot at it working out. I know that the kids are with her mother, so that might play that might have a bearing on what she'd want to do.
And I guess, Mr. Dennis, it would pain me to have to grant an extension.
If we set it far enough out, I can get him at mediation on the phone.
I'm thinking about the DNA question. I mean, I think that just realize that if you can reach out to him, on the older 2 children, that's prohibited by the family code. If I feel like I would be in error. He's been incarcerated. He's appeared once. If he wants genetic testing, I feel like that I would need to offer the DNA testing as it relates to the child, the baby. When it's all said and done, if there were an extension, that might allow the Womacs an opportunity to get licensed and have their 6 months, but.
Sure. Well, Your Honor, if you're inclined to offer it to him, then I would say let's go ahead and order it. Miss Wiley has said that he's made the implication that he wants DNA. And I trust her that he said that to her, even though he hasn't said it to me. I think we'd be well off to go ahead and order it. And if he doesn't comply, he doesn't comply.
Well, he's incarcerated, so I bet he'll comply. The
Yeah.
main thing, Ms. Wiley, is please make an extra call to the OAG and let them know that this has been raised very late in this case, that we're in the 9th month that he's incarcerated. And if they could please, if there's any way to expedite the matter, so that we don't get jammed up on our timing. But I will order the genetic testing between Jalen Holloway and the child, Jace. Ms. Gongora, can you bring that court order to the afternoon adversaries in real life?
Yes, I can.
Ms. Wiley, by chance, are you going to be at the annex this afternoon for any of the hearings?
No, ma'am.
All right.
If I need to be, I could see if I could get somebody to babysit my sick son and I could come up.
If
she wants to send it to one of the attorneys, I'm going to be there this afternoon. I can bring it, or Ms. Brianna will be there.
I'm the one who prepares it. I'll be the one that brings it. I think it's more of someone from the department needing to receive that signed order and get it over to the OAG.
So if it is e-filed today, Ms. Wiley, and you are a service contact, will you be able to get that DNA order along with the referral form the OAG needs today to the OAG?
I'll make sure, even if it's after hours, to get it to him.
Okay.
And Judge Miss Smith is going to be there, and that's Miss Wiley's supervisor, so that will be.
She might help just get it done. Wiley, if you will just try to absolutely track, the order is done, the order is to the OAG, and after about 2 weeks, if you'll follow up, because we don't want this to just fall through the cracks.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Anything further from anyone?
I just wanted to let everyone know that I spoke with Dr. Schindler on Saturday. He said that the types of medication MHMR is not allowing her to take them while she's incarcerated, but they will give them to her once she is out. She signed a plea deal for 3 years probation and then, of course, a fine. That, according to what she told me, of course, takes about 8 weeks process from signing and everything, which should be the end of July. And they do keep moving her bond hearing further back. But that's what's going on so far.
Okay. Well, all right. The court has reviewed the report that's on file, reviewed the progress of the parents on the family service plans. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. The court finds that the department has made reasonable efforts to reunify this family and has also made reasonable efforts to finalize an alternate plan. The court approves of the department's plan at this time. The court finds that the parents are not making progress on their family service plans. The current caregivers are working toward being licensed to participate in the PCA program. Our dismissal date is August 21st, 2023. Because I have ordered the genetic testing between Mr. Holloway and the baby, I'm going to set this as close to the dismissal date as possible. I'm going to set it for August 15th. I have ordered the genetic testing, and then we're just going to really have to stay on top of that, because if he is excluded, that would open up a whole brand new can of worms at the very end of the case. So, Ms. Gongora, I might ask that you also kind of put a tickler every few weeks and just check in with Ms. Wiley so that we don't get to, in fact, probably what I need to do. I'm going to go ahead and put this on July 11th for a status on the DNA. Where are we? Has it been done? Has there been an issue? And that's going to be July 11th. All right. So status of the genetic testing that I've ordered is 7/11, final hearing 8/15, and our dismissal date is, styled. Well, it's actually styled DFPS versus Elizabeth Drapkin and Raymond Robert Mansell. This case is on the court's docket for a permanency before final. This case is set for a final hearing on October 3rd, 2023. The department is present through Ms. Gongora. Ms. Houston is standing in for Kevin Keithley, the attorney and guardian ad litem for the children. Mr. McClinton is present with the father, Raymond Robert Mansell, and Mr. Dennis is present with the mother, Elizabeth Marina Drapkin. Is everyone ready for the permit?
Yes, Judge.
You may call your first witness.
The department calls Alasia Cotton. Ms. Cotton, do you have any updates since the filing of your report?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Specifically regarding my last unannounced home visit to their home. Let me just tell what happened that day.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I arrived to the residence for an unannounced visit to the home. Elizabeth did answer the door. She did deny me entrance into the home and denied a visit that day. She appeared to have been sleeping. She said that she had been sick. So I just told her that I would come at a later time. I hadn't been getting responses from her lately, so I did call Mr. Mansell, asked him if Elizabeth was doing okay, if she'd been sick, and he told me that to his knowledge, she hasn't been sick. And from there, he proceeded to inform me that they have been struggling lately. He told me that she hasn't been working at that time since early April for about a month and a half. For about a month and a half. He said that he's worried. He feels like he's doing everything on his own, that he's concerned with her lack of effort in getting Dean back. He's worried about her missing so many visits with him due to not wanting to deal with the hassle of getting to the office. And just generally verbalizing concern with their financial status as well, not being able to afford the rent and buy food. He also acknowledged that they can't at this time care for Dean, especially regarding their ability to purchase food to feed a toddler, and that he wasn't sure. That he said that sometimes it feels easier to give up.
And Ms. Cotton, in that update, I mean that's a lot of information. That's obviously a big shift. Going back, we are in this extension because the parents had made some progress, specifically in getting a different home that was more appropriate to receive the child. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the parents had been working services. They hadn't completed everything, but they were working towards completing those services so that they could potentially reunite with their child, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it correct that they're still engaging in those services, but it has kind of somewhat stalled as far as progress goes?
Yes, ma'am.
And so the department, as we sit here today, still has those same concerns of just lack of stability, overall stability when it comes to these parents long term.
That's correct.
And unfortunately, in that conversation that you had with Mr. Mansell, that it seemed that the parents are also recognizing the limitations as far as financial stability that they have that would prohibit them from being able to care for this child.
Yes, ma'am.
And you say that mom had lost her job, and so there are still concerns not only with that stability, but that kind of goes back to the concerns of her mental health that had been mentioned at the beginning of this case, correct?
Right.
And so all that to say, the goal in this case is still unrelated adoption.
Yes, ma'am.
And given the information that you received from the parents, or specifically from the father at your last unannounced visit, does the department feel that mediation in this case might be helpful and beneficial for this family?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else aside from that specific update that you just gave to the court that you feel would be helpful moving forward?
I will say that I observe their home every month. I do take pictures, and it seems to be kind of staying the same. But I did have a conversation with Miss Drapkin. Since she isn't working at this time, she really does have the time to get the apartment in order and cleaned up, which she hasn't been doing. And so I think that that's an issue as well, especially with knowing that we're kind of nearing to the end of the case. They do have this opportunity, to really show that they want and can get him back. I think it's concerning that their apartment is still in the condition that it is in.
And you had mentioned earlier about a concern about mom not visiting or missing some visits with Dean. Are both of the parents visiting weekly, bi-weekly, or how's that been going?
So they're scheduled to visit weekly. Mr. Mansell doesn't visit as often. He has probably visited, I can probably count on my hands due to his work schedule. We did recently change it on his behalf to a day that works better. He visited last week. Ms. Drapkin, however, has not visited in 4 weeks. 2, she canceled due to stating that she was sick. And then 1, she waited until literally late the night before to say that she needed
I think most all of this is in the report, which I have read. So
It is, Judge. I just feel like it's important information to get out there on the record.
Okay, well, when the report is admitted, then it's in the record.
I understand, Judge. Is there anything else, Ms. Cotton?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. McClinton?
Yes, regarding Dad, now you say, is he still working his services?
Yes, they're currently working on the individual and family therapy.
Okay, also you had to hear that they need to complete protective parenting. Is he working on that?
So protective parenting is not ordered of him. They're doing a parenting segment within their family counseling.
Okay, and that's the one with Dr. Cobb?
Yes.
I believe you also mentioned there that they had about 5 more sessions to go, and you were going to obtain some notes from Dr. Cobb. Have you obtained those notes?
He has sent me notes, the last being the end of April. I'm still waiting on notes for May.
Okay. So is that regarding Dad, is that all he needs to complete is just his therapy?
As far as services go, yes.
Okay, and then he's making progress on that. Is that the one he said he's got 5 more sessions to do?
Yes, I'm not sure if that's going to be accurate as far as sessions or not. I think it really depends on their progress.
And I believe you said that y'all did change his visitation or the visitation schedule to accommodate his work schedule.
We did.
And has he been making his visits since y'all made that accommodation?
It has only been 2 weeks. He did make this last one.
Okay. I believe also, I guess there's not any issue with drugs in this case, is there?
All the drug results are part of the report.
Right, okay.
That's already been admitted.
All right, I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Dennis?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Houston?
Your Honor, unless I don't think Ms. Cotton had any new updates on the child, and it seemed like it was fairly well covered in the report, so I have no questions.
Thank you. Any further witnesses, Ms. Gongora?
Not at this time, Judge.
Mr. McClinton?
No witnesses.
Mr. Dennis?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, Mr. Keithley would be supportive of mediation as well.
I can't hear you.
Mr. Keithley would be supportive of mediation as well.
That was going to be my next question. Also, the caregivers are in the lobby. I don't know if they would want to be heard. Specifically, their name was not in the report. And so I didn't know if you wanted them brought into the courtroom or not, if they wanted to speak.
I don't believe they need to be brought in today, especially if we are planning on going to mediation.
All right. Any opposition to mediation? All right.
Not from us.
The court has reviewed the progress of the parents on the family service plan. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the current placement with the current foster parents, which I say current foster parents. They're the foster parents now for more than a year. Is that right? The same placement. The court finds that the department has made reasonable efforts to reunify and also has made reasonable efforts to make and finalize an alternate plan. The court approves of the department's plan. The court finds that the parents are not making sufficient progress on their family service plan to warrant the changing of the goal. Parents, the law does require that I admonish you at every permanency hearing if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your child, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. Our dismissal date is 10/21/2023. I'll set this for final on October 10th. Would y'all like to do an in-person final, or would y'all like to have it set virtually and then just see how the mediation works out?
Judge, we're scheduled for a final on October 3rd.
Oh, that's right. I see that now. Thank you. All right. So we are already set for October 3rd. Our dismissal date is October 21. I will order mediation. If following the mediation, y'all determine that we need to set it for an in-person hearing, let me know. Or if it needs to be set at 1 o'clock on a virtual day, let me know. Or are y'all wanting that I go ahead and set it at 1 o'clock?
I would request that it go ahead and be set at 1 o'clock, Judge.
The department is present through whom? Ms. West. Let me get her in. Katie Casper is the attorney and guardian for the children. John McLeod is present. He was appointed for the unknown father of Amaya. Mr. McLeod is present. Mr. McClinton is present for the mother, LaQuinta Barr. The father of Kamira is Ketty Jenkins. He is deceased. And there was a prior conservator, Carlene Stanfer. It's Standifer, right?
Stanford.
Okay, Stanfer. And has she been served?
She has, Your Honor.
All right, she is also not present. We're set for second permanency and final. Also, I have brought the current caregiver, Miss Sonia Cobb, in, and I'm not certain if the child is present with Miss Cobb. Miss Cobbs, if you'll please start your camera so that I can know who's present. All right. Looks like we've got both Miss Cobb and also Kamira. And Mr. McClinton, if you're with us, if you'll please start your camera so that I don't get started without you. It looks like also we have Amaya with Miss Cummings. Is that right? So we have both young ladies with us. All right. You may call your first witness, Ms. West.
The department calls Ariel Duncan.
And I guess before we go further, Mr. McLeod, have you had an opportunity to do your efforts to identify and locate the unknown father of Amaya?
Judge, we have written to the mother, she's incarcerated, asking her if she could give us any idea who Amaya's father might be. I also sent her a self-addressed stamped envelope for her to return that information to me. We have not received any reply back from her yet. I think it's been about a month that when we had sent that. Did notice in the court's file that I didn't see, and I was hoping that the department could maybe comment on this. I did not see any paternity registry search on that. But other than that, we've not been able to identify anyone.
I was told at a prior hearing that there was a paternity registry search done and filed, and the CCJ was filed.
We saw a CCJ, but I didn't see a paternity search, but I may have missed it.
I'm pulling it up now, Judge.
Mr. Crosby, can you check? Do you have it, Ms. West?
I'm still looking, Judge. Give me just a second.
Then you start with your questioning. Mr. Crosby can check.
And Judge, before this hearing concludes, I need to make you aware of something about the children in this case. I got a phone call from Mr. Pritchard's office. It appears that Ms. Stanford has filed a SAPSER separately for these two children and the other child that was originally severed, and it is in the 474th.
And he filed that after this court had temporary jurisdiction?
This was filed on March 14th.
All right, well, I'm going to let the parties deal with that.
I just wanted to make you aware of it.
Okay. I wonder then where she is and where he is with this case being set. We've been in for the better part of a year. You may proceed.
Ms. Duncan, do you have any updates on how Kamira is doing in her current placement since the court report was filed?
No, ma'am, everything's still the same. She's doing well in her current placement.
Does the department have any concerns about the care that she's receiving?
No, ma'am.
As it relates to Amaya, do you have any updates since the court report was filed?
No, ma'am, she's doing well in her placement as well.
Does the department have any concerns?
No, ma'am.
As it relates to the mother, your report mentions that she is currently in the Woodman State Jail. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it your understanding she has a projected release date of December of 2024?
Yes, ma'am.
And in your report, you mentioned that she's not expressed a desire to rehab her relationship with Kamira. Is that correct?
That's correct. After talking with Dr. Schender, he expressed that he was concerned about her wanting to rekindle a relationship with Kamira.
Has she indicated if she would want to rehabilitate a relationship with her other daughter, Amaya?
She talks to Amaya regularly, probably once a week. Prior to going to Woodman State Jail, I know she was going to be setting up her phone call visitation list, and I'm not so sure if she was able to do a phone call since then. Since her transfer, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you don't know if she's had any contact with Amaya since she has been in Woodman State Jail?
Correct.
Do you have any updates on any services or any programs she can work while she's in Woodman State Jail?
No, ma'am. When I went to visit her at Woodman, she said that she had just got there. It's only been a week, and that there wasn't any services at the time.
Okay. Do you have any other updates as it relates to the mother in this case?
No, ma'am.
Do you have anything else you feel the court needs to be made aware of?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. McClinton.
Yeah, she said regarding the mother, when you met with her, there was no services at that time that she could complete while incarcerated. Is that still the case now?
That still may possibly be the case. I'll be visiting her within a week to confirm that again, to see
Okay.
if she can do any services. But when I went to see her last month, she said no.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. McLeod?
Ms. Duncan, you say you're going to go see the mom in about a week. Would you ask her if she has any idea who Amaya's father might be when you go, and then let me know?
I will ask her again. I have asked her in the past. It was quite some months ago, but she was uninterested in giving that information.
When you say uninterested, did she just refuse to give any information, or did she say
She refused to give the information. She's still Miss Cummings' son, Marcus Walker. She still considers him as Amaya's father, even though he's not biologically related.
And how does the department know that he is not biologically related? Has anybody done a paternity test on him?
Yes, we have, and it is
I'm assuming negative.
negative. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. No other questions.
Ms. Casper?
Ms. Duncan, Ms. Stanford, who's apparently filed this other lawsuit, would you agree there are some major concerns about her ability to be protective of these children?
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, Kamira does not want to see her or visit with her, does she?
No, she does not.
Okay. With respect to Ms. Cummings, she's working on becoming licensed. Is that right?
Yes.
And her preference would actually be adoption. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. I'll pass the witness.
Any further questions of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Your next witness?
I have no further witnesses.
Mr. McClinton?
No witnesses.
Mr. McLeod?
No witnesses, Judge.
The goal for Kamira is unrelated adoption, and the goal that was stated in the report is unrelated conservatorship for Amaya. But you're indicating, Ms. Casper, that you believe the appropriate goal for both young ladies is unrelated or relative adoption or unrelated adoption.
I do, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Any other, Ms. Casper?
No, Your Honor, unless Kamira's here.
Kamira, you have an opportunity to speak if there's anything you'd like to say. Also, Ms. Cobbs has an opportunity to speak. She is the current caregiver, and this is a permanency hearing. So if y'all will go one at a time, if there's something that you'd like to say, I'll give you that time at this right now.
I can talk now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I do not want to go to stay with my nana because like she had the opportunity to give me at first because like she had I think my mama or somebody had called her to ask her, do she got room? She said no, she didn't have room. So she had the opportunity to give me at first, but she didn't. So that's why I don't want to go with her at all. Okay. And then also I don't want her to see my baby because she keep on asking to see my baby.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Cobbs, is there anything that you would like to inform the court and everyone here?
Yes, ma'am. I, as well as same thing as Kamara saying, I've had them, Amani will be 1 July 9th, and I have not had yet to hear from Miss Stanford at all. And when I did receive the children, Amani was newborn, and Miss Stanford was aware that she had every chance and opportunity to get them, and she refused it.
Thank you. And Ms. Cummings. Ms. Cummings, if there's anything that you would like to say at this point, you are welcome. All right, and it looks like when they, all right, looks like Pritchard's office reached out to Mr. Crosby regarding the current pendency of the case. And they were told that this case was pending in this court. And it appears, though, when they filed in the 474th, there is no mention that there is a current proceeding pending. Do they name Ms. Casper? I guess that there's no mention of the department, no mention of Ms. Casper, no mention that these parents have lawyers in this suit.
No, Judge.
I'll reach out to Judge Bennett here shortly. And actually, I think the appropriate thing, rather than my reaching out to Judge Bennett, would be to have someone like the department file a plea in abatement that there is a suit pending. In fact, she's a party to this suit. And that would probably be the appropriate way to bring that to Judge Bennett's attention. I would anticipate if Judge Bennett is aware that this suit has been pending in this court since about August of 2022, he would not take it up. All right. Anything further from anyone on the permanency?
No.
If not, the court has reviewed the progress of the parents on the family service plans. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the current placements of each of the children. The court finds that the department has made reasonable efforts to reunify and also to make and finalize an alternate plan. The court approved the department's plan with the understanding that we have 5-year-old Amaya with a caregiver that would prefer adoption. I think that is an appropriate goal as well. The court finds the parents are not making progress on the family service plans. There are no parents here to warn. The next hearing will be a final hearing. Our dismissal date is 8/14. How did that happen? I'll set this for August 1st. And Mr. McLeod, assuming the mother hasn't responded to you yet, I'm anticipating there's probably not a whole lot more you'll need to do, that you'll be in a position to have filed your summary of efforts well before the 8/18.
Yes, ma'am, we can.
All right. August 1st is the final hearing. I'll set that at 1 o'clock. This case is on the court's docket for a second permanency and final. The department is present through Ms. West. Katie Casper is the children's attorney and guardian ad litem. John McLeod is present for the father, Stephen Ray Johnson. Mr. Darling is standing in for Sam Martinez, who represents the mother, who is present, Tatiana Willis. We are set for a second permanency and final. Are y'all wanting to take up second permanency or final?
Second permanency, Your Honor.
All right. And I don't see the caregiver in the lobby. You may call your first witness.
The department calls Rosalind Demerson. Ms. Demerson, do you have any updates on the children since the court report was filed?
No, ma'am. They're still doing fine in their placement.
Does the department have any concerns about the care that they're receiving?
No, ma'am.
And ma'am, you mentioned in the report that the current caregiver is unable to become licensed due to the number of children in the home.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have any other updates as it relates to the children?
No, ma'am. Not at the moment.
As it relates to the mother, do you have any updates on her progress on her family plan of service?
I do know when I talked to Dr. Schinder, she was supposed to be going back to counseling. She did miss one counseling session due to, she said she was having migraines or whatever on that particular day. So she did not go to the counseling services or protective parenting classes that day. I have not spoken with her for as this month for last week, but I should have a face-to-face with her either this week or next week to see how she's doing and get in touch with Dr. Schinder. She did make a visit with the kids last Wednesday.
And when you say visit with the kids, are you talking about these 3 children that are involved in this case, along with Khalil, the child she has in another case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were there any concerns reported from that visit?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any other updates as it relates to the mother?
No, ma'am, I do not.
And as it relates to the father, do you have any updates on him since you filed the court report?
No, ma'am, I do not.
And ma'am, in the recommendations section of the court report, it recommends that Ms. Willis is no longer allowed to visit the children at the placement. Is that a request the department's making today, or is that something that needs to be corrected?
Something that needs to be corrected. We have, she is participating in visitation with the kids at the caregiver, but it is on a specific day and time, not the 8A to 8P.
So since we have those specific dates and times for the mother to visit at the caregiver's home, there's not been any concerns or issues with the mother showing up?
No, ma'am. The department is responsible for taking her to those visits.
Okay. Do you have any other updates at this time?
No, ma'am, I do not.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Darling.
No questions, Ms. Demerson, Judge.
Mr. McLeod.
Ms. Demerson, have you had any communications at all with Mr. Johnson?
No, sir, I have not.
No other questions.
Ms. Casper.
Ms. Demerson, part of the reason for doing those visits on a specific day and time is so that mom can show that she can be consistent in visiting her kids. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so the kids are going to know that I get to see mom next week at Wednesday at this time, so that they can know in their little minds too that they get to see their mom regularly. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Unless she counsels, but yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
Any further questions of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Any further witnesses, Ms. West?
No further witnesses.
Mr. Darling.
Judge, Sam wanted me to call Miss Willis. And thank you. Miss Willis, Mr. Martinez wanted me said that you wanted to inform the court that currently you're not able to work due to the medical condition with your last pregnancy,
Yes.
but you are making your bills paid, and you wanted to explain to the court how you're doing that?
Yes.
And how are you making your bills getting paid and providing a stable home?
My rent is currently paid through I believe it's called a renters program. It's for single mothers and children. My rent is completely paid by Salvation Army. My utilities are paid. I only have 3. They were being taken care of by my grandparents while I was in the hospital, but now my grandparents are unable to take care of them. So my aunt Deborah Trotter steps in and takes care of that. I have been able to obtain a job, but it is a work from home position. That position I start training for today at 2:30.
Okay. And in regard to the protective parenting classes, are you intending to make up the one that you missed?
Yes, I now have, I believe, 2 or 3 left before I can graduate the entire course. I actually have a whole folder of them that I have completed. I try to keep it so I can keep track of exactly where I am in class, and I can keep track of all the tickets. So when I do graduate, that it would, I don't know if I teach. So when I do graduate class, I'll be completed, and I can show proof that I have attended all 10 classes, and I'm now ready, eligible for graduation for protective parenting.
Okay. And the last thing Mr. Martinez said is you wanted the court to know that you did complete your psychological with Dr. Schinder in May, and you found that therapy to be helpful.
I completed my psychological in February. If I'm not mistaken, the paper is also in this folder. I completed it February. I completed it February 9th, I think is what he meant to put.
Okay.
I completed my psychological February 9th. I've been attending counseling sessions since I've been discharged from the hospital. Even in the far future, I do see myself continue to attend therapy sessions. I do find it very helpful, especially with all the things I went through with this case and my pregnancy, and also up to birthing Khalil and bringing Khalil into the world. I find it very helpful, and I'm very comfortable with Dr. Schinder. And it's just helpful to me that I can actually breathe and safely talk about the things that are kind of in the back of my head.
Okay. Thank you. Judge, we have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. McLeod.
And Ms. Willis, the report indicates that you're having some communications with Mr. Johnson. Is that true?
I have not spoken to Stephen since right before I had Khalil, and that was at his mother's request for me to tell him that I no longer want anything to do with him. And I'm even pushing that issue further as to the lease in this home is for another couple of months, and I'm completely ending this lease June 25th, and I'm going to move to a completely different residence. So, there's no way that anyone will know where I live except for the department, my aunt, and my 2 aunts, the one that has temporary custody of my kids, and my aunt that helps me every day.
Okay. And well, just in the limited communication or in the last communication that you had with Mr. Johnson, did he give you any indication of his intent to work any services or why he wasn't working services?
My memory is really, really groggy, being as though I did pass away and I was in a coma. But if I do remember that conversation correctly, he got upset. He didn't lash out or anything. He stayed mute the entire time. And mid-sentence of me saying I'm completely separating myself from you, I'm detaching myself from you, and I'm completely focusing on my kids and myself. It's no longer a family situation, being as though what he did was entirely incorrect. I also take responsibility for withholding, I don't know, I guess him thinking that it was okay or if it was right, but he just walked out.
Thank you. No other questions, Judge.
Ms. Casper.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Ms. West, any questions?
I have no questions.
Your next witness, Mr. Darling.
No other witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. McLeod.
I have no witnesses, Judge.
Ms. Casper.
No witnesses, Judge, just that the kids are doing really well.
Thank you. And it looks like the caregiver is not able to be licensed due to the number of children. So is the caregiver aware that this probably would not be a subsidy case?
I don't know, Judge. I saw that when I was reading the report, because when I was speaking with them a few weeks ago, their preference would be if the children aren't returned to be adoption. I know that I think it's maybe her sister's kids that are in the home, and I don't know if that's something that can be changed or not. But I think we need to have some more discussions with her about that.
It's her daughter's kids. It's her. I know her daughter lives with her, and then her daughter kids also live there also.
Well, and I don't even presume to understand all of the rules that licensing goes through, but licensing for adoption is easier than licensing for PCA. I'm aware of that. And if she's currently receiving kinship money, that will run out. And we just need to know if that's going to be an issue as far as continued placement with this caregiver. It sounds like mom is trying to make some progress. So it seems like whether the children are able to be fully returned to mom or mom is visiting, it sounds like we've got some good options, but we need to know if financially there's going to be an issue in the event that this current caregiver needs continued financial support. And if that's something that can't happen, we need to know that sooner rather than at a final or after a final.
Can I actually ask a question?
Sure.
So with my kids being returned, is that seen in the future, or I'm sorry, my kids are really sensitive subject for me. I just want to know, are they, I mean, I do know that I have to complete these services. I have no problem doing that. I will do whatever is necessary to show the department and to also show the judge that my kids are they're my oxygen, literally. The moment I woke up on life support, the only thing, I couldn't even talk. I had a gigantic tube down my throat, but the only thing I kept doing was pointing at the lock screen on my phone and trying to say kids, because I don't want nothing else but those 4 people. I mean, I would literally do anything, jump through any hoop for them to be returned home.
Well, the good news is right now, the department's goal is not to seek to terminate your parental rights. So that would be something that would be final, potentially, and forever. And so sometimes what happens is, depending on where we are in the case, maybe we just really work with families for family and parents to work together. So that could be an option, whether they're returned to you, but keep working your services, keep working with Ms. Demerson. If you've got problems with anything, please make sure you're reaching out to your lawyer. And we'll just wait until the final hearing to see. It sounds like the dismissal day on this case, I believe, is also 8/21. It is. And so do y'all think that setting this on a Thursday for a special setting is probably the safer way to go? That's kind of my feeling is, unless y'all can get everything worked out. Mr. McLeod, well, I guess Mr. McLeod's got no real dog in this fight at this point.
Judge, Mr. Johnson has totally refused to participate in any way, including communicate with me. So
okay.
Don't count on me to be much of a participant.
Okay, and I know that
I anticipate we're either going to have an agreement moving forward, if we're going to do an extension or something like that, or.
Well, then let's do this. Let's go ahead and set it for virtual on 8/1. If y'all have an agreement, wonderful. If there's not an agreement, we'll start the final on 8/1 virtual, and then we'll finish up in person where I can give several hours or a whole day if necessary for a contested setting. If you guys, Mr. Darling, if you'll just give Mr. Martinez a message that if he believes as we get closer, that mediation might be helpful, well, then we can always start on 8/1 and then y'all could go to mediation before we come back in person. That's probably the safer, most efficient route. All right.
Yes.
All right. The court has reviewed the progress of the parents on the family service plan. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the current placement. The court finds that the mother is making some progress on issue that you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your children. Your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. Are the visits for the mother currently supervised by Ms. Benson?
Yes, ma'am.
And do those seem to be going well?
Yes, ma'am. As far as I know, yes, ma'am.
Ms. Willis, are you able to get along with Ms. Benson?
Yes, I've never had an issue with my aunt.
All right. Oh, we were just doing the set schedule because we want to just make sure that we can
Yes,
be
ma'am.
consistent. Okay. All right. Well, what
I've made many attempts, like throughout this past week. I visited them 2, I believe 3 other times. And she's always welcomed me with open arms. As soon as they get out of school, I'm sitting right there. I want to make it to where I'm there every day, but it's kind of hard without transportation. But with this work from home position, I do see myself getting my own transportation, possibly as soon as my first check.
All right. Well, I've set this for a final hearing 8-1. That will be virtual. If you need more time, we'll continue and finish on another day. Is there anything further from anyone?
No, Judge.
I can't tell if somebody, is there any reason that anyone would object to my approving the motion to substitute filed by Christy Ryan for the mother?
I have no objection.
All right. You are free to go then, Mr. Kinslow. I have approved that substitution. Also, Mr. Dennis is present for the father, Isaiah Jones. We're set for a status. Is everyone ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may call your first witness.
The department calls Clotel Stewart. Ms. Stewart, was there a PC or FGC held in this case?
A PC.
And did the parents participate?
The mother did.
And so the mother was involved in the formation of her family plan of service?
She was.
And am I correct that you subsequently reviewed that family plan of service with her?
Yes, I did.
And then she signed it?
She did.
And are there any additional services the department's requesting to be added to the mother's family plan of service beyond those already listed?
Not at this time.
And have the referrals for those services been sent in?
Yes, they have.
And has the provider information been provided to the mother?
Yes.
As it relates to the father, was there a family plan of service created for him?
Yes.
And have you been able to review it with him?
Yes, we reviewed it over the phone and I sent him a copy via email.
And have you received a signed copy of that family plan of service back from him?
I have not.
Okay. And have the referrals for his services been sent out?
They're not necessary for him since he's out of state.
And that was going to be my next question. He is currently residing out of state. So is he able to participate in services that the department has picked out already?
Yes, we did find one for protective parenting that he can do online.
Okay. And am I correct in that he is on random drug testing?
He is, yes.
Okay. And has he drug tested for the department?
No, he has not.
And I'm guessing that's another situation because he's out of state. The department can't pay for drug testing?
That's correct.
Okay. And so has the department worked out with Mr. Jones when he could potentially drug test?
Originally, we were telling him that in drug test when he comes to Texas again, but he won't be here again until July.
So is the plan for him to drug test when he comes to visit potentially in July at the soonest?
We would also like to request that he, if he's able, test at his nearest facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
And am I correct in that the department has identified a facility that is near him in Oklahoma?
Yes.
And the department's determined it'd be about $50 for him to submit to a drug test there?
Yes, that's correct.
And so the department would like for him to submit to a drug test there before him coming to the state next month.
Yes.
I don't see that happen. I mean, he's indigent, right?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Well, he's working, but
if the department wants to pay for the test, then, or he can drive all the way down here and he can drug test before his visit, but I can't hold that against him.
Yes, Judge. Beyond the protective parenting and the drug testing, is there anything else the department is asking for Mr. Jones to participate in?
Just resource management. We want him to be able to provide Amiri with a safe and stable home.
Is there anything else you feel the court needs to be made aware of?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Dennis?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Ms. McNamara?
Your Honor, I have a few questions to follow up. So, Ms. Collette, you mentioned that the mom signed her family plan. Has mom drug tested?
She has. She drug tested on May 15th, drug and alcohol test.
Did she provide a hair follicle test prior to that?
She did during the investigation.
And what was the result of her hair follicle test?
Negative.
They were positive.
Mom's hair test was negative, was the testimony at the 5-9 hearing.
I have that the hair is positive and it had traces of marijuana, but the urine was negative. So she did 2, I believe. I can verify that.
This hearing is really about the family service plan and service.
Yes, Your Honor, I think we're going to ask for an expanded visitation. So I think the results of this drug test are relative to our request that we're going to put before the court.
But I would have heard that at the time of the adversary. I'm not really inclined to relitigate things that have already happened.
Okay. So
do you understand what I'm saying? That testimony about the drug test came out at the adversary. At the adversary, I ordered visitation would be as agreed and supervised by the caregiver between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And then the department and the ad litem always has discretion to increase if that's in the best interest of the child.
yes, Your Honor, before the hearing, I had reached out to them to ask if they would be opposed to expanding those visitation hours due to my client's work schedule. She works at nights, and the child's placement has, who I believe is here today, has expressed her consent to letting mom move in with her so that she could have more time with the child. Mom has tested negative in drug tests. She's gone to parenting classes. She moved out of the home where there was domestic violence. And so mom is just trying to get more time with her kid that she's been the primary caregiver for. And so that was the evidence that I was trying to pull out. And I believe the ad litem mentioned that she needed to hear how the drug testing went and speak to the caregiver before she could do that.
Okay, so drug testing after 5-9. And your client is wanting to move in with the caregiver?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so I did find that the hair, if you were still needing that.
Any drug testing after 5-9?
Okay, so that would be the 517 and the drug and alcohol were negative.
Drug and alcohol were negative. Okay. And have you done a home study on the home that the child was placed in?
We have, yes.
And what were the results of that?
It was denied. We are working on the concerns, which was only one. It was regarding the swimming pool.
So there were no other concerns in the home other than the swimming pool?
That was it, to my knowledge.
And what about the swimming pool was concerning?
The access. So I've worked with Miss Matthews about just securing the ladder so Amiri won't have access to climb into the swimming pool.
Okay. And did the department have any concerns if mom was to move in with the current caregiver?
At this time, we can't recommend it. We would like to see mom work more services to start her therapy. And that's where we are right now with that. And then we can view that at a later time.
When you say work more services, other than starting therapy, was there anything else that you wanted to see her work?
Yes. Well, she does have her psychological evaluation scheduled for the 22nd, and we would like to see the results of that and the recommendations for that as well.
Okay. Would the department be opposed to removing the time restrictions that mom can visit her kid?
Right now we have the 8 p.m. I would need to staff that with my supervisor.
So at this time, you don't know of any concerns that you can provide to the court about removing the time for limiting visitation?
What time were you all wanting?
Well, I can ask my client, but the restrictions, I don't know if it's appropriate in this hearing for me to, Your Honor, may I answer her question? I want to make sure I'm not. Yeah, so my client, I think she's working until like 3 a.m. And so her schedule is a little off. And so having expanded time on the weekends, maybe till 9 or 10, and I can get with my client, but I think that the time frame is landing in the hours that she works. And so that was the concern.
Okay. I do understand. I will still need to reach out to my supervisor and get back to you on that.
So has mom been cooperative up to this point?
She has, yes. And she has started her parenting classes. She's done 2, one on the 22nd and then one yesterday.
In the affidavit that I think was submitted to the court, the department mentioned there was concerns about methamphetamine use. Has the department found any evidence to support that concern at this time?
Your Honor, I'm going to object because this is going way outside the scope of the status hearing.
The question is, Ms. Dummel, what is your position with mom moving in with the current caregiver, provided that the current caregiver understands that she will not qualify for probably any subsidy at all if she allows mom to move in.
Well, as I explained to Ms. McNamara prior to the hearing, I need to have conversation with the caregiver about her willingness to even have that happen. Until about 2 hours ago, I didn't know that was a request.
All right.
I haven't had that conversation with the caregiver.
All right. What I'm going to do is leave the visitation order like it is. It might seem reasonable to look at varying or modifying the hours based on her work schedule, but that is something that's best done probably by agreement, or at least by getting the ad litem's input. And if there's an agreement, either to make the hours start earlier or later, or even allow mom to move in, provided that Ms. Thummel and the department, sure, we want mom to work services, but we also want to preserve the parent-child bond. So I see the value in allowing mom to move in. If her drug tests are clean, if there's not a concern, then it can be very beneficial for mom and this baby if they can live in the same home. But the one absolute thing I have no control over is that home will never be licensed if mom is living in the home, and the caregiver will not qualify for any money. So sometimes that's an issue. So I'm going to continue with the status hearing today and let y'all let Ms. Thummel do her visits with the caregiver, satisfy herself what she believes might be in the best interest of the child. And as usual, the department and Ms. Thummel have discretion to increase mom's visits, even allowing her to move in if that's in the best interest of the child. In the event that the department can't agree, because sometimes the department just can't agree, we'll have a hearing, but at least then I'll have a hearing set aside specifically for this issue. Anything else of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Any further witnesses, Ms. West?
No further witnesses.
Mr. Dennis?
No, Your Honor.
And I know your client's out of state. Any reason that he couldn't participate by phone today?
No, Judge, just lack of contact.
All right. Any further witnesses, Ms. McNamara?
I do have the caregiver that I was planning on calling, but I think based on the judge's prior ruling, we will just connect spring with her directly.
Okay. Thank you. And then that way, if y'all can get it worked out, then that's easy. Any witnesses, Ms. Thummel?
No, Your Honor.
It sounds like, Ms. Matthews, you're off to a great start. Stay in touch with your attorney and your caseworker. If an order that's made or that has been made needs to change because circumstances have changed, I can take that up. But my preference is for folks to try to work things out ahead of time, especially on a Tuesday when all I think is set is a status hearing. But I bet y'all could get that worked out.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Matthews, you are aware of the services that are on your family service plan, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything on your family service plan that you believe is so unfair that I would not make it an order of the court?
No.
Okay. All right. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the current placement and the prior orders for visitation at this time. However, I'm giving discretion to the department and Ms. Thummel to increase the visits, including allowing the mother to either spend the night or move in if the department and Ms. Thummel believe that is in the best interest of the child. And just saying that mom needs to work more services, that's not really that's not a reason to prevent, in my way of thinking. If mom is a danger, that's one thing. But so hopefully the department can look at that. I'm making the family service plan for the parents in order of the court. Ma'am, your progress on your family service plan will be reviewed by the court at every future hearing. And the law requires that I let you know if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your child, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. The next hearing is October 3rd, 2023. That's the initial permanency hearing. Second permanency and final is January 23rd, 2024. And our dismissal date is April 8th, 2024. Is there anything further from anyone? If not, we'll be in recess. Ms. McNamara, if you've got Miss Judy Matthews there. If Miss Thummel would like, if y'all would like to go in a breakout room right now, I'll give y'all a minute so that while we're all here, I don't mind. I don't know what Miss Thummel else has going on after docket.
I'll just talk to Miss Matthews separately, the caregiver, Your Honor. I communicate with her regularly. I just talked to her yesterday.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll be in recess.